It's a shambolic, disgraceful, historical attempt of people in Parliament to show themselves as being solid individuals that we voted for, and instead being disgraceful characters in a sordid play where it's all about personal ambition and not about the people.
But I'm finding it more and more difficult to understand how the Tory party doesn't see what's happening here, because they've literally destroyed themselves from the inside. It's almost as though they've eaten some kind of horrible poison that they knew they were eating, and they've allowed it to poison every single part of their organisation.
Well, it's the death knell for the Conservative Party for this generation, and possibly for a long time to come. I think what we're seeing within the Conservative Party is this pro-Remain Brexit kind of campaign that's continued after it happened. You say it's not a Remainer coup. I would say that that is really one of the strongest political aspects behind it. I think we've also seen that the moving of individuals who supported Brexit being pushed to the sidelines, and the policies of those in the Conservative Party to support effectively the kind of Blairite, Cameron-esque style policies, continuum of that boring, non-successful political viewpoints. That's what's going to happen under Jeremy Hunt. And in immigration, well, we might as well wave goodbye to anyone that believes in controlling immigration into this country, because certainly Grant Shapps is not an individual who's willing whatsoever to go against the grain of the vast majority of Conservative MPs who are pro-migrationist. They are actually generally supportive of large-scale migration in this country because they like wages being lower, they like the poor being suppressed and pushed into poor housing, they like to be able to have the power to control the NHS over them by saying, we can't get you doctors, but we'll try and do our best to do so. This is about control and fear, and mass immigration helps them with that.
And the Liz Truss idea is to bring, at the same time as supposedly proposing that we stop the illegal migration of the people coming on the small boats from Calais, she wants to have immigration sort of legally increased because supposedly she wants those people to fill jobs. So are you saying that that is a deliberate effort to drive down the costs of employing people?
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, once you hear the kind of institutes of directors saying we want mass migration, at that particular point you realise it's only about pushing wages down and pulling people in from abroad to do so. And this has always been known. We remember during the Brexit campaigns, 2016, we had the Bank of England that said that large-scale migration impacted wages for the poor. We had I believe it was the director of Aldi, saying that once we left the European Union, wages would rise. We had a previous chairman of Marks and Spencer saying exactly the same. So businessmen are always there looking to try and push down wages. And rather than look at this country and say, hey, what a fantastic nation that we have, that we can upskill our people, bring in new technology, improve productivity, what we've decided to do is say we'll go to the opposite, backward way of thinking of low skills, low technology, low productivity, all to suit mass corporates who really believe that low wages is the only way to compete against America and China in the global economy.
Yeah, because, of course, wages had been rising. People had been getting more money in various different jobs. Lorry drivers were getting more money because they were more in demand, because a lot of the cheaper European lorry drivers had gone back to their own countries because they didn't want to stay. You know, so it was actually working for British workers. British workers were getting better paid, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing that's changed is that we've had the idiocy of global governments deciding to lock down completely our economies during the COVID period. And those countries that did, like this, have expended huge sums of money in the debt markets and increasing our debt. They also led to people losing their jobs and not being able to go back now. And you've got lots of 50-year-olds, over 1 million of them now, who've decided not to go back in the workplace. And that's followed up by inflation that started to rise before the war in Ukraine. And we're pumping up the support of that, knowing that energy costs are going to rise, as we've seen only in the last few days how high inflation is. And then you start bringing in large-scale migration with the costs of around 6 to 8 billion for all the asylum seekers that are coming in this year. You're seeing costs across the board and a government that is just away at sea, not understanding how to float back to the shore with any sensible economic policy.
But none of the people coming on those boats, as far as I know, is actually getting work, because either they're not allowed to work because they're technically seeking asylum, so they're being paid for by the taxpayer at ludicrous amounts of money, as much as maybe £10 million a day, and none of them are contributing to the economy in any way whatsoever.
No, they're not contributing to the economy, but if you listen to the Labour Party, the Green Party, the SNP, overnight they would be released into the economy and told that they're free to stay here, which is a massive attraction for the rest of the world, and we'll just be like Germany, and we'll have millions coming in from all over the world because they know they're allowed to stay. That will happen, but you've also got pressure within the Conservative Party to do exactly the same. And that's the type of kind of politician that Jeremy Hunt and Grant Shapps are. They're the believers that you have to release these people and possibly give them an amnesty to get out of the costs of the government of paying them an asylum, and the hope that they'll be able to go off and work and employ them. That short-term thinking from the Treasury, who believe that bringing in people, masses of people, improves GDP. But when you do that, GDP per capita, that's where you've got all the people in the country, that goes lower, and particularly for the poorest and lower middle class in this country. They're the ones who suffer, whilst you can get your great barista coffee or your cleaner or someone washing your car. That they'll do very well for the very wealthy, but the manufacturers, they'll also do the same and not have to look at productivity and improving wages.
That is the problem, isn't it? And the thing is, the social aspect and the social pressure created by that is now reaching a peak point, because I'm getting calls from people pretty much on a weekly basis now saying, if the government isn't going to stop these people coming, we're going to do it. And we're going to start going down to these beaches, and we're going to start protesting and maybe doing other things as well to make sure that they're not welcome. And that is a very dark day indeed, if that's what happens.
Well, look, it'd be interesting to see if people do it, because then you'll have to see whether the police will actually stop them spraying these individuals in orange or throwing milk over them as they arrive, or making glue and sticking them to the boats on the beach. And then we'll see what the difference is between our police, who've made a very clear distinction that they don't really give a damn about those protesting, creating criminal damage, and those who are illegally coming into the country. The police supporting illegality of those coming into the country and opposing those who have illegality in our streets. So it'd be interesting to see if people actually do that. It will be a dark day, but when people feel this level of pressure, and governments, police, and our security services fail to do that, people feel that the only option is in their own hands.
Yeah. No, listen, I have total sympathy with those people who say those things. I just hope that's not what it comes to. I should just tell you a bit of breaking news. Matthew offered, the latest Tory MP, the 14th, in fact, to come out and say that Liz Truss should go. He's told the Evening Standard, I can't see the situation being sustainable. She does need to sit down and discuss it with her cabinet and with others to manage some kind of dignified exit. It's inevitable that she goes. But does she then go and take all of those, what might have been described as the more right-wing Tory policies with her, and we're left with this rump of Jeremy Hunt and a cabal of Remainers?
Oh, you're going to get that if she goes, because I don't think they'll go back to the members for the vote. They should do, and they should offer an alternative, but I don't think they'll do that. But the point is, Mike, I think they've already lost it, because if anyone in this country thinks that the North, the Midlands, the Red Wall are going to vote for Jeremy Hunt, if they really think that they're going to vote for Grant Shapps and those people, they're blowing in the wind, because they can see what these individuals are. And what you've got within the Conservative Party, I think, is a huge fight between those in the South and what they regard as the safe Conservative seats, eating their own Conservative MPs in the North and the Midlands that made them have that kind of large majority. I think they're turning to them and saying, we don't care about you. We're not going to have immigration policies that support you. We're only going to have policies that support those in the South. We're going to bring in mass migration, which shows that we're not carrying out our policies in the manifesto. All the things that Suella Braverman said very, very clearly in her statement when she resigned. I think we've got an internal eating fight of our own Conservative MPs who are casting out the Red Wall MPs to the wind and saying we're just going down to a rump and hopefully we won't get completely massacred at the next general election. Yeah, it's a hell of a strategy, and it's not one that I think is going to pay off for them, is it? Stephen, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.